Have you ever found yourself reading a book and thinking, wait a minute, can I really trust this narrator? Maybe their story seems a bit too convenient, or their perspective feels skewed in some way. If so, congratulations. You've just encountered an unreliable narrator in the wild. In today's video, we're going to dive into the fascinating world of unreliable narrators and explore how they can add delicious layers of complexity, ambiguity, and suspense to your writing. By the time we're done, you'll have a solid grasp on what makes a narrator unreliable, how to use this technique to keep your readers guessing, and the key strategies for pulling it off effectively in your own stories. Sound good? Let's dive in. First things first, what exactly is an unreliable narrator? Simply put, it's a storyteller who gives us information that is incomplete, biased, or just plain deceptive. They might be deliberately lying, or their perception of events could be skewed by mental illness, trauma, or their own limited knowledge. Whatever the reason, their account of the story leaves us questioning what's real and what's not. Take Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl, for example. The book alternates between the perspectives of Nick and Amy, a married couple with some serious trust issues. As the story unfolds, we start to realize that both of them are holding back key information and manipulating our perceptions in their own ways. It's a masterclass in unreliable narration that keeps us on our toes right up until the jaw-dropping finale. So, how can you craft an unreliable narrator of your own? The key is to ground their unreliability in a clear, psychologically believable motivation. Maybe they're trying to protect a secret, or they're in denial about a painful truth. Maybe they're just a compulsive liar who gets a thrill from deceiving others. Whatever the reason, make sure it feels authentic to the character and the story you're trying to tell. Once you've established your narrator's shaky credibility, you can start using it to create suspense and misdirection in your story. Plant subtle clues and inconsistencies that hint at the truth behind their words. Use other characters' perspectives to cast doubt on their version of events. Keep your readers guessing and questioning until you're ready to drop the bombshell revelation. A classic example of this technique in action is Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. The narrator, Dr. Shepard, seems like a trustworthy gentleman who's helping the famous detective Hercule Poirot investigate a murder. But, in a shocking twist, it's revealed that Shepard himself is the killer, and his entire narration was a carefully crafted deception. Talk about an unreliable narrator. Of course, pulling off this kind of reveal requires some careful planning and pacing. You don't want to frustrate your readers by making your narrator too obviously untrustworthy from the start, but you also don't want the twist to come out of nowhere. It's a delicate balancing act. One way to strike that balance is to gradually chip away at your narrator's reliability over the course of the story. You might start with small inconsistencies or moments of questionable judgment, then escalate to more overt signs of deception or delusion. The idea is to slowly build that sense of unease and uncertainty so that when the big reveal finally hits, it feels both shocking and inevitable. In Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, for example, the narrator is a patient in a mental hospital whose perceptions are filtered through his own schizophrenia and hallucinations. At first, his account of events seems vivid and convincing. But as the story goes on, we start to catch glimpses of his unreliability through his interactions with other characters and his own fragmented memories. By the end, we're left with a haunting sense of ambiguity about what was real and what was all in his head. Of course, using an unreliable narrator is not without its risks. If you're not careful, you can end up alienating or frustrating your readers with too much deception or confusion. It's important to remember that this technique works best when it serves a clear purpose in your story, whether that's to explore themes of truth and perception, to create a mind-bending puzzle for readers to solve, or to offer a searing commentary on the human condition. You also want to be mindful of how long you sustain the unreliable narration. In a short story or a novel with a limited scope, it can be incredibly effective to keep readers guessing right up until the end. But in a longer work or a series, you might need to offer some kind of resolution or revelation to keep readers engaged and satisfied. Ultimately, crafting a successful, unreliable narrator comes down to balance, subtlety, and a deep understanding of your character's psyche. It's a tightrope walk between deception and revelation, between confusion and clarity. But when you pull it off, the payoff can be unforgettable. So, my fellow writers, I hope this has given you a taste of the incredible potential of unreliable narrators in your own storytelling.